Yo, what's good, y'all? Today we're going to be covering all the nations and the new update today. I'm excited for this. Let's dive right in. So, I'm just going to summarize most of the nations in the game in a few words or less and just tell you what their pros and cons are. So, starting out with Britain here. Amazing nation overall. Has some very iconic tanks as well, but their main pro is that they have very good armor. Their main con is that they use solid shot and don't have a lot of good design or very good mobility because they have basically no transmission, and it's worse than the Soviets. Trust me on that. But they also do unlock APDS and APFSDS rather early. So, yeah. Japan isn't really for the faint-of-hearted. It's kind of a selective nation. It can either punish you or make you a very good player. Overall, bit of a mixed nation, but gets insane top tier and a few good tanks, especially when you get past rank 1 and rank 2. There's only one small issue I have with this nation. You ugly mess of a tank. Anyways, we're really talking about China here, and it's mostly a copy-paste nation. It's not very fast, not very good. Their tanks are mediocre, copy-paste, aren't very good, and you don't get a lot of their genuine tanks until you reach, like, 10.3 or 8.0, really. So, yeah. But overall, pretty good. Stay hydrated, by the way. But, yeah, overall, pretty good nation. I don't mind it, but if you want to play other tanks nations while also having some very minimal amounts of your own, then go for it. I don't recommend playing it, though. Not my cup of tea. Italy is where most of the sweats in this game shine, as well as Sweden, which we'll get to in a few minutes. But Italy here has very good mobility, very good firepower. Overall, not a lot of heavy tanks, so if you don't really enjoy heavy tanks but prefer medium and light tanks, this is your go-to nation right here, okay? Overall, though, their main con is that they don't have a lot of armor or a lot of heavy tanks. Their only heavy tank is a premium, which is just the Tigris, which is a up-armored Tiger H1. I really enjoy this tank. I've test drove it 1,000 times or more. I really like it. But overall, you do get a lot of good tanks, and some of them are pretty funny, some of them aren't, but depending on how you look at it, it's pretty good. I mean, the Ariete's a terrible MBT, but it's pretty cool in my opinion. You know? Underrated, undefeated, and this is where most of the specs shine, as well as you get iconic tanks like the Beretta 501. Truck. It is a truck. It is a milk truck with a gun on it. Whose idea was this? This is where you don't go. I hope you know that. This you don't ever want to go through. Do not play France rank 1, tier 1. The moment you get past this, everything else is fine. If you can put up with their terrible tank design, like this ugly monstrosity, then you should be fine. Seriously, I mean, it's an M24 Chaffee, but it's just terrible. They get good tanks near the end, but no. Don't suffer through this. This rank here will either make you or most likely break your spirit. I say this with the most seriousness I can ever say. Don't play France. I don't have any hate towards the French people. I think their culture is amazing. I don't have any shade on any French players, nor like a passion to hate them. Their tanks are just that. The only redeeming thing they have are their aircraft, which come later at top tier. And at that point, you're most likely suffering already. Don't play France. Just don't. This here. This is where all the sweats shine, okay? This is Sweden, all right? Sweden 99% of it over here is all their genuine tanks, maybe a few copy paste here or there. This is all Finland's tech tree. Some of this here is also Norwegian, but this is mostly Finland. Awesome. Very good tanks. Overall, immediately gets APDS and Sabo, which has the biggest amount of penetration in the game, especially at low tier as well. You know, iconic fun tanks, as well as some very powerful MBTs like the Studetzwagen 122B+. Very, very good MBT. Better than the Abrams, in my opinion, which has a heavily modified Leopard 2A5 chassis. So, honestly, awesome nation. Very good, very powerful, awesome, an insane powerhouse. If you ever come across a Swedish main in the match, you either accept your fate or you go down swinging, because every time I've come across one, I'm either winning or losing, and most of the time I'm losing against them. So yeah, I do want to play Sweden though. This is one of the tanks I really want to get though. Just saying. This is Israel. Now, Israel isn't that bad of a nation. If you want to get to top tier fast, then I recommend playing this, but you can only unlock this at rank 4. And at this point, you might as well continue grinding the rest of the nations you were playing to finish this and then come back to this. A lot of Israel mains are just here to skip the grind and insanity that is low tier, mid tier, and just jump straight into top tier. Like, they have like only a few propeller planes and then just immediately jump into early jets, as well as they only have a few medium tanks and light tanks before they jump into like MBTs. So if you really want to, play Israel. I won't stop you. Again, also not really my cup of tea. They're not bad, they're not good. They're pretty mediocre at best. Just saying. That's all the nations really I've covered. I also did cover them in a bit of a few short content forums as well. You can also look those. Those are pretty cool in my opinion. I think they're pretty awesome. But now we're going to dive into like the real meat and potatoes of things and seriously look at what do these tanks fire and how do they work and what their general purpose of use would be. So, with this another section of the video, we are going to be looking at the item I love and hate called shells. Alright, shells are basically what the tanks fire, and I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, no really access, no really. War Thunder added these new shells you can see here as well, so I'll go into each in-depth explanation of them right now. Starting off with APCR, or otherwise known as Solid Shot, this has a tungsten core and is literally built to punch through almost any thick armored vehicle you come across. This has the most amount of penetration with the littlest, like the least and littlest amount of bite you could ever have. You more or less mostly want to go for APHE or APHE CBC, which I will explain what those means later, but APCR is armor-piercing, capped, rigid shell, or composite rigid cell. So yeah. Next up on the list are smoke shells, which are kind of obvious in the name. They don't do any damage and just provide cover and smoke. It's this shell back here, otherwise known as a phosphorus shell. So yeah. Now we're actually getting the ones that go kaboom. This is high explosive. This has basically no penetration, but the most amount of explosive powder to it. Very effective against light tanks and open top tanks, like the M18, for example, is considered an open top, and the M41 Walker Bulldog, if hit in the right place, could also get one-tapped by high explosive. The more amount of filler you have, the more likely you're about to experience the mechanic called overpressure, where the game just says, yeah, you got hit with this really explosive shell. We're not going to go through the math and calculate it, but you're just going to be atomized. Next up on the list is APHE, which is armor-piercing, high-explosive shell. Basically, it's APCR, but it actually has more bite to it than APCR. This allows you to go through targets and also leave a lasting impact on them with explosive filler. Now, that can also shatter, so you may want to go for APHE BC, armor-piercing, high-explosive, with ballistic capped, making it able to go through angled armor much better. Or if you want the biggest bang for your buck, you go with this shell here, which is APHE CBC. Armor piercing, capped, ballistic capped, high explosive shell. Basically, you get the most amount of penetration, most amount of filler, and the most amount of coverage for any people you come across in any different tank. Now, in low tier to basically almost 9.3 for any nation, penetration and explosive filler are like your biggest damage doers ever. Alright? But now we're going to dive into the territory that is APDS, Sabo, Hash, which is just... Hash I could actually explain right now, which is just high explosive squash head, which is just high explosive, but upon contact, right? Like, we're going to use my hand here. Upon contact, it goes flat and then explodes on the inside, rattling. Let me do that again. So this is like your shell, right? This is your armor. It'll go this, flat, and then explode. It's kind of like C4, but it'll explode on the inside, rattling the tank on the inside as well. Pretty good, but I don't recommend it. Here's an example of Hesh in action. It's, again, high explosive splash head, like I stated. Pretty good. Awesome. I'm just keeping this basic and simple for y'all, so you don't gotta worry about a thing, alright? And last and finally, for the shells in general, are these three here. I'm going to skip APDS because APDS is Armor Piercing Discarding Sabo, which is just basically this shell right here. But we're going to start off with Heat FS, which is High Explosive Anti-Tank Fin Stabilized Shell. Basically, it's just HE, but far better, more accurate, and this will often replace your APHE CBC. This is APFSDS. This will often replace your armor piercing. This is all penetration, basically no bite. This is built to go through any armor and not explode. This is built to go through any armor and explode. But this has the downside of being affected by explosive reactive armor, which basically is armor that explodes at the shell, countering out the explosion. I know, science. Amazing. And lastly, over here, we have the better APFSDS, which, again, like I stated before, is just built to go through any armor it comes across. There is also ATGMs that are added to the game, as well as tow missiles and a few other different shells, but the thing you really need to know is that those are basically just better high explosive in a sense, because ATGMs often work as high explosive, being able to go through almost any armor and overpressure any vehicle, really. So, yeah. Those can actually be shot while they're flying at you. Excuse me, sorry. Those can actually be shot out of the sky while they're flying at you, so highly recommend if you see something flying at you from a tank, then yeah, I recommend you start firing your machine guns at it and take it out right then and there. Now that we've covered all the nations and that we've covered most of the update, which just added the MiG-25, a few other light tanks that you don't really have to worry about until top tier or later tiers. But for the most part, it added a few boats, planes. The MiG-25 is really just the most hype of this thing, but I mean, I guess if you want me to talk about it, I could, but to put it simply, it's just the fastest aircraft in the game. It's built to go really high up. It's built to just use missiles, so you don't have any guns. So if you just want speed and missiles, then go with that. It is an event vehicle, though, so I don't know if that's your cup of tea, but I'm just saying. Overall, though, pretty solid update. I enjoy it. I do have a few announcements I'd like to make before this video is over. Plus, it's one on my shorter end because I am running out of iPhone storage. So, yeah.